All right, and we are live. We are so excited to do this webinar with you all. I have some great panelists with me. We're going to take a few moments to let folks transition from their past meeting, transition from whether it be in person or virtual, grab your cup of coffee or water. We want to give you a few moments. While we do that, I want to ask, we'll do formal introductions very soon. But in the meantime, I want to ask my panelists and friends, Steve, Melanie, and Emma, how is your week going? You have very important pressing roles. How are your weeks going? Maybe Steve, how's your week going so far?
Very full. We have a monsoon of rain here in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And when I get done after this, I get to do a facilitation with our general managers from our pizzerias, and I always like hanging out with them.
There you go. That's great. Rain and pizza. I feel like rain is when pizza is required.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about you, Emma?
It's going to hit 50 degrees today. And so that is, everyone's like, ooh, the weather, it's so good. And it is a little cloudy, and it's definitely not like Melanie vibes right now, but we'll tease her on where she is. But yeah, it's good moods, when it gets close to springtime.
Oh, I love that. And Melanie, moving and grooving, joining us from a conference, which is incredible. Yep. Tell us, how's your busy week going?
Listen, I came from Jersey. It was like 30 degrees. I landed in Florida where it's like 80 degrees. I got my dog with me. I really have nothing to complain about. Life is good. Life is good.
That is wonderful. Melanie, this is a new first for me. I have never had a sub guest, a dog guest with us, and I am just so delighted. And I'm just going to keep it real with everyone and say that dog is welcome for the entire conversation, because we need this conversation, everybody. I think it's going to be really helpful for everybody. So dogs, cats, pets, all welcome here.
And his name is Hermie.
Hermie. I'll make sure.
He's curious.
I'll direct questions to Hermie as appropriate. That will be perfect. All right. And those are the fine folks and our panelists. I am watching our chat blow up. Oh, we have some dog tags. Brian, that's great. Oh, Karina with the puppy. I love it. If you haven't yet shared, I would love to know where you're joining from. Please let us know. We have a great international audience today. This is actually one of the highest RSVP topics that Leapsome has had thus far. We clearly need this conversation, so that's great. And so I will do my best to read a few. Norfolk, England, California, welcome. Wallecito, Massachusetts. Melanie, Melissa, I am also in Massachusetts. I am a Boston gal. Costa Rica, beautiful. Atlanta. Yes, I love Costa Rica. I love it. Toronto, Malta, Erie, Pennsylvania, Dallas, Toronto, Nebraska, Minnesota, Hanover, Pennsylvania, Chico, California, Cincinnati, Baton Rouge, Norway, New York City, London. Oh my goodness, I feel like a radio host naming all of your fantastic locations. Well, this is wonderful. Keep the activity coming. Leapsome, it's really important to Leapsome that we do presentations where you all also get to know each other. Maybe continue the conversation on social. Find us on LinkedIn at Leapsome. You'll see a lot of great content later, so that is great. All right, we're 4 minutes past, so I'm going to do an official kickoff of our webinar. So welcome, everybody. This webinar is Don't Shoot the Messenger, and when HR has to deliver the hard news, a topic that I'm sure is near and dear to your hearts and something you're very familiar with. While I am unfortunately not Leapsome's co-founder and CEO, Jenny Pudevilles, who's sick at the moment, I am honored to be able to be our moderator in her place. My name is Rebecca Corliss. I'm the new executive that have just recently joined Leapsome, leading our fantastic marketing group. And HR is a place and people ops I've had a lot of passion my entire career. So to be able to contribute to this conversation is an honor. And so I'm happy to be included. If you don't know Leapsome, I imagine you're learning Leapsome or still getting to know us. We're honored to be loved by our customers, to be the platform for HRIS performance and growth. We have over 2,000 organizations believing in us and leveraging us in order to elevate their people strategy and automate the parts they want to. So we're honored for that. We won't be discussing that today, but if you have questions or need support from our team, let us know. We're always here to make sure you are introduced to Leapsome. And this is a record webinar for us in terms of the registrants. We have over We have thousands of folks who have registered. Some will watch us live, some will watch the recording. So that is great. And on that point, we will be sending the recording out to everybody. Maybe you're watching said recording right now, and maybe you want to send it to a colleague later. We will make sure you all have it. So what is about this theme? Why are we doing this theme? And why have you all come to this theme? Well, I think it's a topic near to dear our heart. HR is the messenger for some really difficult, unpopular, emotionally charged topics. It's a really tough gig, and we all deserve a moment to have a bit of cathartic release on that challenge and discuss some really important strategies and approaches we can take in order to do that well and make sure we can influence leadership to be strong partners in driving those great conversations. The last 5 years, I mean, what has happened so much from AI is the hot topic right now, employment market changes, return to office, layoffs, you name it. There has been so much organizations have gone through, and HR is at the helm guiding a company through those changes. And so we really deserve this moment to talk about how we can do that well, especially when we have hard news to discuss. With that, I'm very excited to welcome our 3 fantastic panelists. We have Melanie Naranjo, our Chief People Officer at Ethena, Emma Leeds, Founder, CEO, and Chief People Consultant at People Function, and Steve Browne, Chief People Officer at LaRosa's Inc. And so I want to give them each a quick moment to tell us their backgrounds. I believe you are all repeat speakers with Leapsome as well. So welcome back. Thank you for joining us. This is your encore. And so I'll give you all a moment to introduce yourself, and let's start, please, with Melanie.
Sure. I'll keep it quick because I know we have a lot to get through. My name is Melanie. As you mentioned, I've been with Ethena for about 4.5 years now. We do compliance training, everything from harassment prevention, cybersecurity, that sort of thing. And I mention it because it's been really interesting being in HR for an HR tech company similar to Leapsome, where you're just like really embedded in the HR audience and understanding how lonely it is, how dramatic it can be. And so I'm really excited to talk about this topic because I think more HR people need more support and more HR people talking about the tough parts of HR that we often are not allowed to talk about. So I will let you popcorn it over to the next person, Rebecca.
Awesome. We're lucky to have you. Emma, share a little bit about yourself.
Amazing. Hi, my name is Emma. I'm the founder and CEO of People Function, and we are a small boutique HR consulting firm. We do HR, compensation, recruiting, and L&D and DEI&B. If I do say so myself, we're a fun follow on Instagram and TikTok. I'm always sharing our some spicy takes. But I think what I'm so excited for this conversation because I've found myself over the last few years, People Function, I started about 5 years ago, and we've grown. We're about 20 people now. I've kind of stepped from being really in the HR role in-house and then with our clients. So like now I'm actually the CEO, like making some of these decisions. And so it's been an interesting shift from being the HR person to being the leader. And I'm of course still responsible for major HR decisions at People Function. But it is fascinating to kind of be sitting in the other chair. So
In the other chair.
I'm excited to bring it to this conversation.
Awesome. And a lot of empathy comes from that, I'm sure. So that's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
It's fantastic. And then last, definitely not least, welcome, Steve. Tell us a little about yourself.
I'm Steve Browne. I hate these things. I've been in HR since long before all 3 of you were born. This is the only profession I've ever been in. I've been at my currently company, LaRosa's, for 20 years this year. And I love everything about HR. It keeps getting better. I don't find it challenging. I find it intriguing. It's great to be in the middle of conversations and to teach people and also develop them. So I love to hear from the different venues here with Emma and Melanie because we come from different backgrounds and it should be a lot of fun.
I love it, Steve. How do you know? Maybe my skincare game is really strong. You don't know for sure.
Yeah.
It's all lighting.
You never know. You never know. Oh, I love it, Steve. We're really lucky to have you, and we're excited to get all of your points of view. Perfect. So, believe it or not, fine audience, the first question is actually for you, Eva, before we start going into our panelists. And we have an intro poll. So if everyone can find their way to the poll button, in the right-hand corner of your screen, there is a question for you all. And what I want to know, I bet I know the answer, but what I want to know is, have you ever had to deliver news or an unpopular policy that you didn't fully believe in? Tricky one. Yes, it's a vulnerable question. Yes, we are a safe space. Share what you think. I'll take a peek and see what folks are thinking and what the responses are. Let's see. All right, we have some votes coming in. I will give us a few moments. You could probably also see the results coming in yourself. I'll let it get to a few more. Okay. All right. So have you ever had to deliver news or an unpopular policy that you didn't fully believe in? Well, 59% have many times. So not even once or twice, many times. So we really need this topic. And 36%, a little over a third, once or twice, and 5% not really or not yet. So either in wonderfully aligned orgs or maybe growing in your career, or a third situation entirely, which is great. So wonderful results. I'm glad we're talking about this topic. This is really important. And thank you all for jumping into our poll. Okay, let's go into our discussion. And first theme we want to dig into is why HR becomes the messenger. Why do we have this role? Why is that so important here? And I'm going to throw it to Melanie first, and then Emma, I'd also love for you to share your thoughts after. So Melanie, in your experience, why does HR so often end up delivering the hardest or most impossible messages? And if you can make it tangible for us, that would be wonderful.
Sure. I think there are two reasons. I'll give the generous reason, and then I'll give the more cynical reason. I think the more generous reason is that HR professionals have been conditioned, throughout their careers to be the martyr, to be that, the people who are in charge of employee happiness, as opposed to what we now know is, our actual role is strategic thinking on how to drive performance and strategy through smart people strategy. But for a long time, it was sort of like, oh, you all you help people through things. And so if there's a tough thing, you're a communicator, right? And, there are a lot of reasons why, but I think that's maybe the most generous reason. The less generous and more cynical reason is, quite frankly, people don't want to say tough things. So if a CEO makes a tough decision like, hey, we're coming back in office, I'm very busy. I don't have time to talk about that. And, I don't have space to deal with, all the employee blowback. So HR, that's your job, right? You deal with emotions. That's your job, HR, emotions. And so I think it's a mix of people not wanting to say the tough thing and people thinking that that's HR role. And I'll say just one last thing, which is I think there's a little bit of this that is also within our control as well. There's a lot within our control, but part of this, I do think we bring on ourselves sometimes just to say the tough thing. I say that because I am one of these people and I like hearing these things because it helps me realize I have the power to change. I think that sometimes we don't push back. We're like, yes, of course. We're like people pleasers. We're like, oh yeah, of course I'll do the tough thing for you. I want to show that I'm valued. So oh, that's a thing that you will value me for? Great, I'll do it. As opposed to realizing listen, I can do anything, but is that the most strategic approach? Probably not. We'll talk more about that later. So those are my thoughts.
Interesting. A mix of expertise that you all have, maybe some leadership avoidance, and maybe I'll call it a caricature interpretation of the function I am hearing across that answer. That's great. And what about you, Emma? Why do you think this always goes to HR?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with Melanie on her take. And I think HR is so often this connective tissue between the business and the people. And so when the business makes decisions, it is sometimes falls on HR to then deliver those business decisions to the people, which I think is not the correct way to do it, which we'll get deeper into. And I think that often there is HR can have a negative stigma. I'm sure not where Steve is because he's built such great relationships, but HR can often have a negative stigma. And so I think a lot of that stigma actually comes from them delivering hard, unpopular news when a CEO or a leader actually just doesn't want to take accountability for that decision. So I think that happens really often. And I think we get a lot of, we have a lot of conversations in our community and comments on our posts and things saying, oh, HR sucks. And I think that HR sucks really comes from delivering news that was really never HR's to deliver. It was actually a leader's to deliver, but they didn't have the chutzpah to go and do that.
Yeah, and that's really hard, especially given the heart and care of individuals in HR functions,
Yes.
and then to have this moment of misinterpretation. That's very, very hard. And then Steve, I'm curious on your side, when does this cross a line? When has it gone from partnership to being used as a shield and deflector? What is that moment that you've seen?
Very situational, but I think the line happens constantly. I love what Melanie said. People don't like to give hard information. It's not our nature. You know, everybody says, "Oh, I can do it." And there's a great analogy I heard, that old Native American thing that said buffaloes run into a storm to get through the storm quickly, and cows run with the storm and stay in the storm. Well, a lot of people stay in the storm. They never get out. So instead of taking the 5 seconds to have the hard conversation, they just keep churning in the storm. The line is situational because some things are very simple, but people make a huge issue out of it. I don't know if you've ever seen that. But other people, it's not a huge issue, and it actually is a big issue, and they should be jumping into it. It's hard to determine. The big thing is quit staying on the fringes and complaining about. We talk more about people than to people, and we need to change that.
Absolutely. 2 notes. We are doing this live, folks, and I notice Emma has just hopped off our screen, and I'm going to believe, oh, she comes back just like that. Emma, you're perfect. We just wanted to add a little drama to the presentation.
Oh my God.
We said we were going to bring the spice, and we're bringing the drama, and it's great. So welcome back. If you ever needed live authenticity, folks,
Happy to be here.
Perfect. Steve, I love that point. So I am a relative newcomer to Leapsome, and one of the key values of Leapsome is to really, we want to practice what we preach. We're working with incredible HR leaders, and my second week in the gig, I was able to contribute to an incredible radical candor workshop as a way for that very point to make sure the full organization could really internalize how to give hard news with kindness, with love. And so I hear you that, and I think it's wonderful that HR can provide this skill set, and I hope others can across organizations can learn it, because we will all benefit from being able to do that well. So that's great. Cool. Melanie, so what is the key to effectively communicating tough decisions and navigating employee upset? How have you done that?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things. I think if it's your decision that you are making, you should be the one who communicates it. Plain and simple. Second, and then I'll elaborate, but second is if you are communicating a difficult thing, or if there are multiple people who are involved in the trickle down of communications, everyone should present a united front. Let me be careful what I say by that. I do not mean that you should lie about your feelings about something. If you're like, I actually think that was a dumb idea, but it's not my decision, it's Melanie, so I guess we need to support it. That's not what I'm saying. I will give you a very clear example of a time that I made a decision, and I felt that my CEO and my peers backed me up in such a wonderful and authentic way. So I made the decision that we had premium renewal, we had benefits renewals, and the premiums their increases were just enormous. And there was truly no way for us to absorb the cost without it negatively impacting other parts of the business. Now, as a chief people officer, I cannot only prioritize people budget. Like I can't. I have to think about the entire success of the business, because that is people, right? If I use all of our budget to make sure that nobody gets hit on benefits, and then we have no money left to hire people on the marketing team to offset the bandwidth issues that people are having, to pay for our pay increases, and so people aren't going to get the promotions and increases that they were scheduled to get, right? That's part of a larger ecosystem. So I made the decision. I am so sorry to say, we can't absorb this cost. We're going to have to raise premiums. And I said that. I communicated it because it was my decision. But immediately after I communicated on all hands, my boss got on the call and said, I want to be very clear that Melanie had a very tough decision to make, and I respect her for her decision, and I don't envy her the decision that she had to make. And if there are concerns, if you have feedback, we welcome it, because that is how we learn. We experiment, we give feedback, we embrace open dialogue. But please note and do not forget, this was a tough decision. And that is the role that we have entrusted Melanie with, and I trust her with it, and let's see how this goes. And so that's really how we do it. Like if my CEO has to make a conversation, whoever it is, you own the decision that you make, you give the why, right? I have made this decision because I had to think about the larger ecosystem of costs. Here's what I don't want to give up. I don't want to sacrifice the increases that you all have scheduled coming down. I had to make a tough choice. I made the decision that I think the increases are going to be more important than making sure that your premiums don't get hit. So it's all about owning the decision, giving a clear why, being open to feedback and the possibility that you might be wrong. And we welcome the feedback and we will iterate over time. And then making sure that your whole team is backing you on this in an authentic way.
That's a great story. And Melanie, I gotta share what the chat is saying about you in that story. Folks are loving the honesty that this group is giving. So kudos to the three of you. I think folks are really have stories of their own that they must be thinking about in this moment. So that's wonderful. So my next question, Steve, I'd love to throw it to you. So how do you hold others accountable to enable them to own their own decisions? I heard you might coach some folks about this. So when you coach, what do you recommend?
Whenever I've had to do the decisions that Melanie mentioned or Emma mentioned, and I had to give the message, the first thing I do when I get done is go back to the person and go, that won't happen. Because you got to get the message out and give it to people and let people hear what's going on and give them context. And if you're the deliverer, that's great. But I've learned that if people deflect leadership, what happens is people look to you as the leader, not them. And you can't come in and be the leader, geez, when it's all, puppies and unicorns. It's when we have things together, we're a team. And if I'm just going to go, all the bad stuff goes to Steve to give to the people, well, then they're not going to look to you. They're going to look to Steve. And that's really, really odd that leaders will give that up and then come back and go, well, why aren't they paying attention to me? Well, because you chose to deflect. You chose to defer. So I think it's a chance to coach people up and say, I know this is hard. What can we do? How can I help you? And I've even given people templates and talking points, like a speechwriter, and they go, hey, hi, Emma, ... We practice a little more than that. But, the whole point is equip people, don't shame them.
That's equip people, don't shame them. What a great line. What a great line. I could wear a t-shirt that says that, Steve. That is a great line.
And I jump in with a very quick thought, Steve. I think you're touching on something really, really important. And I want to make sure we're making the implicit explicit. What we are not saying is that we should have toxic positivity. No one should falsely frame something as a positive thing. Like, isn't this so great? If it's a tough thing, right? If it's a tough thing, own it. Oh, I know this is tough. Guess what? I hate it too. It's going to impact me. It's going to impact you. I didn't make this decision lightly. Here's why we still believe this is the right decision. Treat people like smart adults. Don't try and gaslight them into thinking this is actually good. It's not. But you know what? That's part of work, right? Not everything's going to be perfect, but it just needs, you just need to get what it is that you are looking to get out of your employment commitment with your employer. Some things are going to be good. Some things are going to be bad. Just own it and be honest and direct about it.
100%.
Yeah. And I think what Melanie's saying here is the return to office conversation, which I think a lot of companies are having right now. The advice that I give to people on how to frame return to office to their team is get really clear on why we are returning to office. Because if at the end of the day, you're just communicating, we're coming back, and sorry, this is a hard decision to make, but people do not understand why, and the person communicating it is communicating for someone else. It is because we care about in-person collaboration. Here's how we're thoughtfully doing that. Here's how we're applying these policies to the entire company and not just to specific folks, and the leaders can do whatever they want. So I think it is really also getting clear on the why and the context behind a hard decision, instead of just throwing your hands up and saying, oh, because we have to.
Yes.
Messaging without context is irresponsible. All it is headlining. And, we don't have to be headline. We have to have depth. And if we don't have depth in what we're doing in our messaging, the context is so important.
Yeah.
You have to have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that depth comes from, I know we're just going off of one another, but I think that depth comes from really understanding the business needs and the business challenges. Melanie didn't make that decision at Ethena because she wanted people to pay more. She made it because she has a deep business understanding of what's going on in the organization and what they need to do. And she's an amazing business leader. So I think that the business context behind that is also a thing that sometimes when HR gets the negative reputation, it is because HR feels disconnected from the business they don't understand. And so starting to really understand the context behind decisions, why we're making them, and even when they're unpopular is also really important here.
Oh, folks, your insight's fantastic. We're gonna have to take this on the road. The chat is blowing up, quoting all three of you. So nicely done. This is fantastic. I love it. So thank you, chat. Thank you, chat, for all the chat. I'm gonna now give you all a question to add your thoughts to the chat, and I'll read a few. And remember, we're a safe space. We're being vulnerable. We're here giving each other the support we all deserve. If you care to share, what is the worst piece of news you had to deliver at your org? And you can interpret what worst means to you, hardest for you, hardest for them, new to you. But what was some of the worst piece of news you had to deliver at your org? And we'll experience this together. Ooh, furloughs during COVID, closing our organization during COVID. Oh yeah. Ooh, a lot of COVID related furloughing, terminating a new mother. Oh, it's hard. COVID. Oh, I can't even read this quickly, folks. It's like a spinner. Layoffs, redundancies after burn-off, layoffs while hiring, return to office, terminations, reductions in force, rifts. Oh, folks, everyone needs a group hug. My goodness. Yeah, these are really hard. Cash flow changes, sale of the business. Ooh, a CEO passing away. Ooh, that is heavy. That is heavy. Yeah. Thank you for being so open, everybody, and sharing the tough news. We've all had to do it, different levels of degree. It is never easy. It's because we're kind and passionate individuals, which makes it not easy. And so thank you all for being so open and sharing that. All right. With that, I'd love to get to our second theme, and that's about staying resilient. We're having our cathartic release, and now we're going to talk about our resilience. And specifically staying resilient when HR takes the blame and gives some practical advice. So Melanie, I'd love to give you the first question. So how do you maintain boundaries when you are forced into the messenger role? How have you done that before?
Yeah, so I suppose it depends on how we define boundaries. I think there's sort of like boundaries with employees, and then there's boundaries with, navigating that relationship with the leadership team. So on the employee side, I'm very clear on what is and isn't up for discussion. So, hey, the what isn't up for discussion. We are returning back to office. What is up for discussion is the how, right? How can I make this transition as smooth and at high impact and positive as possible? I'm very open to that feedback, right? Also being clear on, I always forget the terminology. If this is like an open, I don't know the terminology, but basically, is this a decision that we can come back from, or is it not a decision that we can come back from? So sometimes, for example, like a few years ago, we were exploring summer Fridays, and we were like, oh, we're going to experiment this summer. And depending on how this goes, we may do it again. We may not do it again, right? And so we set those expectations from the start versus sort of people feeling like, oh, I thought this was forever and now you're taking it away, right? So being very clear on what it is that you are and aren't doing and when you'll revisit it and how to communicate those things. And I'll just say like the very tough thing, every once in a while, you get an employee who just keeps having the same conversation over and over. But we shouldn't do this. Let me explain to you all the reasons why it's not blah, blah, blah. I super hear you. And also I need to be clear that the decision has already been made, right? So that's not the discussion we're having. And if you want to schedule time with me to talk about that again, I'm not going to speak with you because I have to get other things done for the business. And it is unproductive and irresponsible of you and me both to keep having this conversation. We need to move on. Now, you might decide for yourself that based on this non-negotiable decision that this is no longer the place for you. And I respect that. And if so, I would be happy to talk to you about a transition plan. But other than that, I'm here to talk about solutions and how to make this as effective as possible. I'm not here to debate with you whether or not we're going to do this. That that has already been decided. So I'm just very clear. And if the person keeps pushing, at a certain point, I might involve the manager, not in a tattly way, but in a, hey, I need you to understand that this is actually causing an issue of both for me and for them. It doesn't seem like they're quite happy anymore. And so you should check in on them at their next one-on-one, and just very clear. Obviously, if they go too far, and it's, think about it as you would with any other employee. If somebody is being rude, if somebody is not embodying values, that's a performance issue, and that's a different conversation. Now, with the leadership team, and then I'll wrap it up because I want to give space to other people to chat. I'm just very clear, let's walk through this, right? Let's say they don't want to communicate a tough thing that they decided. Let's play this out. I communicate this for you because I'm such a people pleaser and I want to make sure that I am of high use and value to you. What happens the minute somebody asks me a question that I can't answer because I wasn't the one that decided it? What happens when people realize that, wait a second, Melanie's not the one who decided this. It was actually you, CEO or whoever. And so why doesn't the CEO face me themselves? Do they not stand by it? Do they not want to be open to questions? Do they not take me seriously as an employee? Are they not open to discussion? So let's just play this out. How do you think this is going to land? Versus if you as a CEO communicate this and own it and treat people with respect, how do you think they will respond? And so it's all about really showing them it's not, listen, I'm not scared to say anything. I have said the toughest things. I've done this is not a test of how willing or unwilling I am to say a tough thing. Trust me, like if that's the thing you're measuring me on, I've already won. Okay, well, let's move on. I can do it. The question is, should I do it? Am I the right person to communicate this? Unless I made the decision, the answer is no. The answer is no. And one last thing, CEOs may come to you and say, no, but it's better that we have a division so that like if they're upset with someone, they're upset with HR. We don't want them to be upset with the CEO because the CEO is the figurehead and motivational. No, trust me, they will be even more upset with you if they sense that you pass the buck off to me instead of owning yourself. Because you know what people actually respect? People respect people that own their decisions. People respect people that are willing to be vulnerable enough to say, I might be wrong. We will find out, but this is a decision I'm making today. And from there, I'm open to feedback, but this is what we're doing. And we will iterate over time, right? So I will pause. Those are my thoughts. Over to the next person.
Oh, great thoughts. And a lot of candor there and some great language that you've used in those different instances that I think folks can carry forward too, which is great. So with that, Steve, so in the instances in which you're enforcing, you are in a situation, you are enforcing decisions that you don't agree with, really difficult moment. How do you maintain credibility despite being in that seat?
I think credibility comes with behavior. You earn trust when you're credible. So it's not a thing of you're trustworthy. So if I'm straightforward all the time, including the difficult times, then it's okay. If I'm only straightforward when things are awful, people are going to see right through that. So I think you need to have credibility constantly. And people watch what you say and do far more than the message. They're looking for the tone. They're looking for the approachability. They're looking for the authenticity. They're not looking for the message, because the first thing that happens is we get rational. It's great. Hey, I'd like to give this tough message, blah, da, 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 da. We change our voices. It's all kind of fun. And then we find out that the first reaction is emotional. So I tend to do it this way. This is going to be hard. You're going to get upset. I'm upset. But be emotional first. Rational first has never worked. Emotional first is you're working with people, not robots. So get out there and give the emotional spin, be honest with it, and then lay in what you need to do. But if you come at it with just the facts, people are going to come up with those tough questions, like Melanie said. And if you didn't come up with the message, you're kind of hung out to dry. Be a human first. HR people tend not to be humans. We tend to be reporters. We should be human first and then report what we need to do.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah. Can I add one thing on that? I think there is a pendulum that can swing of like HR being reporters, to Steve's point, and then there is the possibility where you go too far on the other side. So I had a friend who got let go from her company and she was telling me about it, and the HR person was delivering this news crying. And like, that is inappropriate. Like, if you are in an emotional situation that is emotional for the person that you're talking to, it's all about really allowing that the emotions to be with that person. And it's not, while you might feel that, it is also our job to be like the steady hand, you know, and like the supportive person in that room and in those hard conversations. But to Steve's point, it is to have empathy in a moment like that is also really important. You know, if you go in like a robot, then that's not going to work either. So,
Emma, the best description I've ever had somebody say when I was here was, "You seem unflappable." Because it's funny, a lot of people play HR Truth or Dare. They're like, "Hey, watch this," and they'll come up with this dramatic thing, and we have to be steady. And we have to be like, "Oh, okay, that's a new one. Here we go." I forget which sitcom, you guys are too young. Oh, Norm from Cheers used to cry when people got fired. They go in and go, and then after a while, he couldn't do it anymore. He lost all the emotion. So don't be fake. No one likes it.
yeah.
That's great. Great reference, Dave. Good Boston callback from my hometown. So I liked that one. I liked that one. Emma, that was a great ad that you gave us. I love the concept of the pendulum swing. So I want to go a little bit deeper. So what's your approach? What tool do you use in drawing the line between empathy and over identifying with the anger or concerns that employees might have? What's your approach that you take?
Yeah, I think in one-on-one conversations, Melanie was talking about, you know, when someone's coming to you and they're venting and they have, you know, all of these things that they're essentially dumping on you. What I like to do is make sure that I am not becoming the therapist. I don't have a degree in that. I'm not interested in being anyone's therapist. Like, my job is to support finding solutions. So like, if you come to me with a problem, we can work together to figure out what the solution might be. If you are coming to me with problems and you're not interested in finding a solution, it will become very clear very quickly that like, you're not going to get what you want out of this conversation. Like, you're not going to just get straight empathy. You're going to get understanding and like looking for that solution. So I think I worked when I was in-house, I worked for, you know, toxic CEO, which I'm sure many people in this room can relate to. And if the problem is just the CEO is toxic, I'm like, you know, that's not news to me. So what are we going to do about it? Like, are there things that we can do to protect ourselves, to protect the work, to show up in a different way? And if not, then, you know, we're at a point where it's clearly not working and you're clearly not happy. So I think to me, it's about figuring out in that room, how do you make sure that you are positioning yourself as a solution finder, and not just as, you know, the dumping ground for, you know, problems and challenges.
I like that.
That's great. Folks are loving this. Someone just said this could be a whole other panel discussion, just a deep dive into this topic. And I agree.
Yeah.
There's so much there. It's great. I want to throw it back to our great audience and share another poll for everybody. So go back to the poll in the corner of your screen, open it up and take a peek. And what we want to know, another vulnerable question, when HR takes the blame, what's hardest for you personally? Let's see how we all experience that. Is it absorbing the frustration or managing the pressure, defensiveness, staying neutral, rebuilding trust, figuring it out? So maybe a few of these things you might feel, but which is the hardest? Will be interesting to see what people say, and we'll look at the votes. So some responses are coming in. I will give folks a few moments to share. Ooh, there's two that are quite close. That's interesting. Let's see, I'll give folks another second or two to make your choice. If you haven't seen it, the poll's in the right-hand corner. Okay, I'll go ahead and read out. So the top one, but not by much, is staying neutral when I privately disagree with the decision. And that makes a lot. I mean, it's the whole reason why we're here, folks, on this topic. So yes, that is very, very hard. And then the second one is absorbing employee frustration without burning out. Yes, that's big roles that HR and people leaders have. So that makes a lot of sense. And then rebuilding trust after a tough call. Yeah, trust building is so important. And then managing pressure and then still figuring it out. We all are figuring it out. So that's great. Thank you for sharing your thoughts in the polls, everybody. Okay. We're going to go to our third section of our panel, this third and final section before we go into live Q&A after, which we'll also use chat for live Q&A. But to dig in back with our panelists, I want to talk about regaining control. All right, folks, we're getting to the next chapter, regaining control, championing what we're doing, and really acting with conviction. So Melanie and Emma, this is for you. We'll start with Melanie. So tell us, how do you translate emotional feedback that might feel unfair into arguments that leaders take seriously? So Melanie, why don't you start?
Well, okay, wait, I want to make sure I'm understanding the question. Can you repeat that?
Absolutely. How do you translate emotional feedback like this? Oh, excuse me, that the employee says, this feels unfair. That's the feedback that you might receive into arguments that leaders take seriously.
That leaders take seriously. Okay. I'm going to try and separate this out so that I can give my best answer. I think if it's an employee, oh, I see what you're saying. So like translating employee feedback to leaders so that they understand it. Okay.
Yes, perfect.
So, got it. Okay. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, our job is not to make all employees happy. If you are optimizing for employee happiness, you are not doing your job effectively. I say that with kindness as somebody who used to think that that was my job. My job is to make sure that we are running an efficient business and that I am doing my part in helping achieve that through smart people strategy, which means that you are going to run a business that is really exciting for some people and is not exciting for others. Again, your goal is not to make everyone happy. Your goal is to run a thriving business. However, emotions should not be ignored because emotions are data. And so if someone is reacting strongly, it is important to dig deep, not to say, oh, they're unhappy, therefore we shouldn't do it. Every time your CEO is going to say, that is not my problem. Why are you bringing that to me? Okay, yeah, and what your CEO wants to hear is, what do I need to know to hit our business goal? What does this mean for business? So if you are hearing, if you are getting emotional data that, okay, employees are unhappy, okay, what does that say about the broader business? Maybe when you dig deep, you realize, oh, it is actually decreasing productivity. It is actually decreasing innovation such that we're missing our business goals. A very tangible example might be, hey, this new thing that you did, let's say you, you decided to return to office, or you're thinking about it. By the way, for the record, if you really want to avoid all these issues, you should start sort of like testing things out and piloting them before making a decision you can't go back from, which is, I think, a place where people go wrong. They just make the decision, there's no going back. And it would have been so like, okay, I'll give a perfect example. Sorry, quick tangent, and then I'll come back to it. But because layoffs came up quite a bit, in 2022, when everybody was sort of like, what's happening? We were doing all layoffs, everybody in the world. My CEO, I was so proud of her. She got in front of the entire company and said, I have taken quite a bit of time and I've sat down and I've done the math. Here are the numbers that we have to hit to not have to do layoffs. And if we don't hit these numbers, we will have to do layoffs. I am telling you this not to scare you, but to make sure that you understand the importance and severity. And this is the path that I believe will get us to hit these goals. But I welcome you all and I beg of you to, if you see something wrong or you think there's a better way to do it, please speak up. And let's hit that goal. And people were galvanized. We were worried. We were like, oh, what if people start quitting? They're going to be, no, they were like, thank you for treating me like an adult and trusting me with this and letting me be part of the solution. So anyway, I just say that to say, like, that's like the best thing you can do is like start by like putting out. But anyway, so back to the point. So, so say that like you've already made a decision or you're testing it and people are giving you data and it's like, I'm not happy, blah, blah. What you need to think about is, what is the impact to the business? So a real example could be, hey, you made this change, or you decided you're thinking about us coming back to the office, and I actually genuinely am going to be able to give you less of myself. Here's why. I am not going to have time. I'm going to have to take long breaks to leave the building to go pick up my child, or I am not going to be able to focus as well. And so I am actually going to be able to give you less of myself. You need to like really translate it into how is this going to actually hit our bottom line. If you cannot do that through, talking about retention, talking about engagement, productivity, innovation, if you can't do that in really tangible ways, you're going to lose your CEO every time. So you can't, please don't ever come to the table with, hey, people are really unhappy and complaining. No, it's, hey, I actually did a little pilot of this and I actually saw a meaningful drop in productivity. I saw that people contributed less. I saw that it took longer for us to roll out a new feature. That's what you want to bring to your CEO.
That's great. Emma, I'm curious if you have anything you want to add to
Yes.
this topic.
Yeah. So we're translating, I think Melanie did a great job illustrating it, translating frustrations to leadership. And I think, again, that starts with really understanding what leadership cares about. And again, I think it is where HR can get that reputation where all they care about is those frustrations. They just care that people are unhappy. But what we do, everyone in this room, as like strong HR leaders, is actually get deeper than that of, I understand the business context and what we need to do. I understand why that frustrates some people, but I'm going to then like dig in deeper to understand the root behind that and the way that it is then feeding back and impacting the business. And what you actually need to translate is not the frustration, the surface level feeling, because to Melanie's point, the frustration is data, that is important, but what's beneath that is the actual impact to the business. It is possible that person's frustration does not have a connection and impact to the business. And if that possibility exists, the CEO is going to say, this doesn't matter, it's a false signal. I also think that we sometimes over-index on loud voices. And just because someone is coming to you and is frustrated, that is one person and one loud voice. They may or may not represent anyone else. And so I like to take those frustrations and it's important to find people who you trust in the organization, who you think are doing, like have a pulse, but also like that person can be highly swayed by their own like personal situation and feelings. So it's important to have those people who you are connected to and have a good relationship with, and you have the pulse. But then it is also important to back that up with like real engagement survey data. So you can see like this isn't just the loudest voice saying this that you thought it was, CEO. It is actually this, 30% of the population, and here's how that's showing up in the business. So I think to me, like the feelings, when HR operates in like the feeling zone, that's when HR starts to get ignored, because feelings, everyone has them. But like what actually matters is like what's lying underneath and how that's impacting the business and what we can do as business leaders to really like change that.
Emma, you actually reminded me of, we recently added a new question to our engagement survey that has been a total game changer for us. So I'll share it. It's been, we do everything scale based 1 to 5. So 1 to 5, I'm getting what I want out of my employment with Ethena. And the reason it's been such a game changer is because employees will be unhappy about a couple of things, but then when they pull them out and ask like, okay, but are you ultimately getting what you want out of your employment with Ethena?
Yeah.
There 9 times out of 10 is yes. And so to your point, yes, is this a large majority, or is it a few people? Is it actually going to impact our bottom line, or is it not? And then even to help the employee realize like, how big is this issue? Yeah, like is this a nice to have or a need to have? Like, are you actually gonna quit over it? Like, it seems. Are you going to get better somewhere else? Maybe not.
Yeah. And I think the more that that HR lives in this like feelings therapy zone, the more people are going to be loud and come to you with problems, because they're getting that validation of like, oh, this, I see you, I hear you. It is this like self-fulfilling cycle of like, you're going to keep getting that loud voice if you provide just a venting zone without like searching for problems and without digging into like the business challenges and needs.
Oh, that's great. And Emma, what discernment that you've developed in your career to be able to add data to loud voices, and that story has just really resonated with me in my leadership roles at different moments in time. So that is very powerful and a great ad, Melanie. How about, I'm going to have this be our last question before we start going to audience questions. I want to make sure I leave a lot of time for them. And so Steve, this one is for you. So now we're getting feedback from employees at different data points, et cetera. So could you share an example where perhaps you've successfully challenged, or folks you've known successfully challenged a decision and changed the outcome?
All the time.
All the time? Oh, your audio is a little squeaky, but I think it'll correct. Try again.
Okay, how about this?
Afraid not yet, but I believe. Oh,
Is that better?
it's certainly trying, but it's unfortunately not better yet.
I don't know what to do.
What we'll do, Steve, if you see the chat in the corner and you want to share a thought, we'd love to hear it. And then Emma, may I?
Sure. Can you repeat that question since I'm off the plot?
You got it. Do you have an example you can share where HR successfully challenged and changed the outcome of a decision?
Yeah. Do I have a good example on this? I think.
We're live.
Do I have one off the top? I know.
Yeah.
So where we successfully challenged a specific decision. Go for it, Melanie.
Sure. So this was a small one, but I think it had a big impact. So every year when we do our performance reviews for salary decisions, we have a very firm comp philosophy, and it is that we pay people what they are worth, because not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it is going to be more expensive to replace them if they quit. We're going to have to just pay that same amount to someone else, and that we were refusing to pay them. And in the meantime, we're going to lose time, productivity, morale, all the things. But what can happen is, in the moment, that can feel like far away and distant. And so in the moment when you're looking at, every employee across the company and you're trying to make decisions, it's like, well, can we cut a little bit here? Because if we cut a little bit here and here and here, it actually adds up. So we don't need to, go that generous. And every time this happens again, oh, Steve, you might need to mute you might need to mute yourself. It's sort of like ringing. Anyway, and so what we ended up doing was, in a calm, neutral environment, when we were not making decisions, we sat down and we said, what is the strategy and philosophy we stand behind, and why? Why do we think this is the most strategically sound way to do this? And then the next time we had a performance review cycle where we were reviewing comp, and we started to go into like, oh, can we cut here? Pause. We already decided this. Pull it up. This is what we decided, and here's why. Now, if you are going to cut, either you are telling me that you no longer believe in this philosophy, in which case we need to have a conversation about why you don't believe in this philosophy and what you believe the new philosophy should be. Or you are saying, hey, this is my short-term brain talking, not my long-term strategy brain talking. You are right. I need to come back to the philosophy that we agreed on. And so I've just found it's very, very helpful. When tensions are high, people can't see the long-term vision. They're focused on like, right now. And so it's very important that you clock those things. And in a neutral environment, you put together what the strategy is, you write it out, and you bring it back every time that comes up again.
Great story, and nice thinking on the fly, Melanie.
I know.
Top notch. Yeah, Steve, give us a test. 1, 2, 3.
Test 1, 2, 3.
You got it. Nice pragmatism. Right. Impressive. Do you want to give us a quick thought?
Real quick, because I think we tend to think of decisions as problems instead of decisions as decisions. So when we did our reset in 2020, not because of COVID, but because we had to change our executive leadership, our CEO used to lead all the meetings. And when the CEO led the meetings, no one else talked. So I pulled everybody aside and I said, I think I should lead the meeting. And this is how we're going to do it. So executive meetings will meet every 2 weeks. There will be a flip chart. There will be no agenda. And we're going to get together for 2 hours. Here we go. If people are like, what do you mean? That we don't do it that way? Because it's that old boardroom mentality where there's a pecking order of stuff. Instead of saying we need to be a collaborative leadership team, I think we need to look more at HR as leading through decisions, not reacting to decisions. Mm-hmm. So too often our profession is behind the scenes instead of ahead of it. So we can be the great leaders like these two are and jump ahead and get people ahead so that when the decision comes up, we're not only there, but we're part of it. It's not often a corner silent somewhere. It becomes a whole team.
Awesome. That is a great anecdote. Perfect. I want to give the audience the chance to ask some questions. I will admit, if you've asked one before, there's been so much conversation. I'm not sure I'll find it by scrolling. So re-asking would be wonderful if you don't mind. I do see some in the question section as well. Let me see if and there's voting. That's lovely. I'm going to read the first one from Megan. So I'll read it out loud for us. Emma and Melanie mentioned coming to the CEO with statistics on the productivity loss for employees due to decisions that can negatively affect culture. How would you measure that? That's the question. How would you measure that in a position that would not particularly have measurable numbers to easily convert into statistics? Very thoughtful question, Megan. So how would you measure that is the question, giving impact to culture? Anyone feel compelled to give an answer on that? We'll do one response per question so we can get to a few.
I have a very quick and easy one. All CEOs freaking love podcasts or articles. So you should find out what podcasts your CEO listens to, what articles they read. If it's the New York Times, blah, 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 and you just find an article that backs the data that you are trying to put together. They will, I don't, if anybody, it's just like such a common, like, I listen to this podcast. We need to reinvent the business completely. Like, you just send them and then they'll see. The reality is, unfortunately, sometimes people trust a third-party expert more than their own expert. So just bringing in that third-party expert that you can rely on makes a big difference.
That is great. Very practical. I love that, Melanie. Perfect. And then folks, calling it audible in terms of what I said, we're going to use the questions box for your questions. Makes completely appropriate for that. So I'll be reading from there if you want to add yours. Okay, great. Next one. Let's see, from Karina. How do you deal with we talked about loud voices before. How do you deal with the loud voices that spread their opinions in almost a toxic way? So it's a single person, but also they're spreading their gospel and their opinions. Who would like to take that one?
I mean, I can start here. This to me is like, it becomes a performance problem at a certain point. And like, my guess is you as a company have values. You probably have them in your performance review. If it's hitting a point where it actually is becoming toxic, the way that they're spreading, then one is I'd want that manager to be and the people around them, empower them to push back. Like, this has actually happened with us in the past, and we had conversations with folks internally, and it turns out that people actually did not feel they didn't have the tools to like push back in a one-on-one conversation with their peer. They became a dumping ground. So what I would do is have conversations, understand how people are feeling, but then also empower them to say, hey, I disagree. And like, give them the tools the way that you give a manager tools there as well. And also talk to the manager. Like, this to me is probably something that's going to be showing up in their performance review one way or another, and becoming a company where you start to hold people accountable to their job, which is not happiness all the time, but is finding solutions and like building and really owning your role. It is also like owning the company and the world in which you sit in.
That's great. Next question. I'm going to pick this one because it might help everyone. On behalf of Jacqueline. Jacqueline asked, can you provide a great sample engagement survey for us to use, which is excellent. I'll answer in terms of Leapsome, if I may. And thank you to my team. We do have a template that folks want to use if you want Leapsome's recommendation as well. Yana, who I know is backing me up, if you could put that link also in the chat, that would be wonderful. We always want to provide as Leapsome great resources that we know a lot of our customers also value. So maybe that's a helpful template that you can use and adapt to fit your organization. So I thought that was a great question. Thank you, Jacqueline. All right, next one. How do you push back if a leader asks you to deliver some hard news instead of them? How do you push back? And you might think that the best voice for this message is the leader, not necessarily you. How do you push back? Who wants to take that one? Maybe Steve, you haven't answered a question yet.
Oh, I think it's easy. Honestly, I have tough conversations with the leader first. Too often we get caught up in what's being said instead of how it should be said. we do a lot of pre-meetings on everything. And what we call is a practice we have is called a pre-mumble. So we practice. Hey, this is information. I just had a district manager say, I need to give this information about a team member on the front line, and you need to be there. And I said, I don't think I do. I said, because honestly, I need you to deliver that message, and this is how I'd like you to do it. They had the meeting, delivered it to the team member, changed the person's behavior. He was one of those loud voices. Perfect. Coaching people through conversations versus being the person who gives the conversation is a much stronger position for us as HR leaders.
Yeah, that is excellent. Excellent. I'm going to do one last question for everybody. And because I know we're going to be signing off soon, we'll ask a question and then we'll wrap everyone. And I have if you can hang on for a few more minutes, join us. But I understand we're busy people. First, since we're at the top of the hour, I want to thank our panelists so much. This was fantastic. I'm so honored that this is my first Leapsome webinar and it was so fun and human. So thank you personally from me for introducing me in this way. This is great. If you are not familiar with Leapsome, we help over 2,000 organizations with their HRIS performance and growth. We'd be honored to introduce you to Leapsome if you have a need and looking for platforms to support you in making smarter people decisions. So we got your back if you want to learn more. And then with that, I'm going to end with the top voted question for the puppy. This question goes to the puppy. No, I'm just kidding. This question goes to whomever would like to take it. This question is, do you believe in the Oreo approach? For example, good news, then bad news, then good news. This had 20 votes. So this is the highest voted question. So I wanted to end on this one. Lots of head shaking. Who wants to share their take?
It's sneaky, awful stuff. It's sneaky, awful stuff. You know, hey, how you doing? Crud. Hey, how you doing again? It's bad leadership. I want to hear from Emma too.
And for someone who doesn't want to hear the hard thing, they're not going to hear it. If they walk out of a conversation, all they're going to hear is the cookie. They're only going to hear the good thing and the good thing. And their brain will just fully ignore the thing you actually wanted them to hear.
Yeah.
So I think the best way to end a tough conversation is a CTA, call to action. What can you do? How can you be part of the solution? People want to feel agency, as they should. And so when you say a tough thing, own it, and then say, and here's what you can do. Here's how you can be part of the path forward.
That's great. Chris shared a joke that I enjoyed, and so I will share it, which is, I believe in people bringing me Oreos. That's great. So don't deliver news in terms of the Oreo, but
eat them.
No Oreos as a treat.
I will eat the Oreos in a one-on-one for sure.
Eat the Oreos. That's great. All right, this is fantastic. The last question is for the audience. It's for sake of all of us just learning from each other, and we're doing so well in that. So in the chat, folks, if you are comfortable, I'd love to know, what is your final takeaway piece of advice that you will take away from this session? Something that really spoke to you, something that was meaningful, something that you are hoping to really absorb and bring forward. Share your thoughts, digest it, take it in. So that would be great. Emotions and data and calls to action. We are not alone. Use article or podcast as data when data is missing. Don't let loud voices speak for the whole group. Ooh, over-indexing loud voices. That really spoke to folks. Dreaded loop. Messaging without context is dangerous and irresponsible. More solution focus. Oh, beautiful. These are great takeaways that folks are sharing. I'm so glad you got something meaningful out of it. It's really important to us at Leapsome that we're able to bring incredible experts like Steve, like Emma, and like Melanie to the conversation so we can all learn and explore. This intentionally was a topic that we knew might hit some emotional heartstrings. We deserve to have the community feel ourselves so we can experience that. And aren't we so lucky in having 3 great experts and talking through some solutions so we can all adapt. So again, thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Leapsome team, for producing this. I hope it's been excellent. We will be sending the recording after. We'll also be making some clips of your zingers panel. So some great lines that you gave us so you can just continue learning and sharing. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your day and talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.